Good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss about Michel De Montaigne. He was a 16th century French essayist and philosopher, and so originally written in French, but I am going to talk about the English version. Considered the first great humanist essayist, Michel De Montaigne was also the first to use the word essay. He was the first author to describe his work as essays. He used the term to characterize this as attempt to put his thoughts into writing. In fact, Montaigne is considered one of the early pioneer of the format called the essay. An essay is on a specific topic, but it's a short written work on a specific topic, not as long as a book, something like as article, right? And they are of varying lengths. And he write about so many different topics. The essays are contained in 3 books and 107 chapters of varying length. In the essays, his aim is to exercise his own judgment properly. Most of his works written in French, but has been translated to a number of languages by other literature lovers. Now let's say Montaigne life. The young Montaigne grew up speaking Latin and reading Virgil, Ovid and Horace on his own. He met his friend, this is his friend name, sorry it's difficult for me to pronounce, with whom he formed an intimate friendship and whose death some year later left him deeply distraught, means extremely sad and upset. Tired of active life, he retired at the age of only 37 to his father's castle. He was quite obsessed with death in what seems a rather morbid way today. He had of course lost some people close to him, including his best friend, his father and a brother. To escape fits of melancholy, he began to commit his thoughts to paper. Montaigne was a wine grower and magistrate mayor of Bordeaux. In his second term, he came under criticism for having abandoned the town during the Great Plague in an attempt to protect himself and his family. His time in office was dimmed by the war of religion between Catholics and Protestants. Several members of his family converted to Protestantism, but Montaigne himself remained a Catholic. Now Montaigne's work. When he first started writing, he wrote a fairly conventional, a page or two on various themes, most of which he picked up his favorite classical authors. So he loved to read Plutarch, Seneca. They are Greek and Roman philosophers respectively, the historians, some of the poets, and they gave him the idea of just assembling interesting material on various themes. But after a while he started writing, particularly writing about himself and his own experience and the people that he had talked to and the things that he found when he looked into himself and his own emotions and his own reasonings. In his essays, he addressed himself to a variety of subjects and drew on his own experiences, his reading, his travels, the people he had met, his beliefs and feelings. And another great thing is he has many quotations here. So if he's talking about something and then there's a quotation from a famous philosopher or poet who he likes and respects from the past, like Cicero and Virgil and many others, Lucan, Horace, he quotes a lots of people. So he name drops a lot of people that he has read or that he is drawn his wisdom from, and in a way he is kind of passing along some of the wisdom that he is learned from these other authors who are from another time way before him. Montaigne's essays are not an attempt at an autobiography, but a conversation with the reader about his life experiences, his thought, his judgment, his ideas, and his deeply held beliefs. He has a very simple and clear style of writing. It's not hard to read, it's not hard to follow. He is very open minded. He tries to really explore things with an open minded view. His way of thinking, the view he has of the world, find very refreshing and was very informative, especially his open mindedness and his willingness to dismiss things. His approach to that is really interesting. Now, Montaigne's philosophy of free judgment. Montaigne developed a sharp criticism of science. The main problem of this kind of science is that it makes us spend our time justifying as rational the belief we inherit, instead of calling into question their foundations. Science should be a free inquiry. Critical judgment is systematically silenced. Montaigne demanded a thought process that would not be tied down by any doctrine principle, a thought process that would lead to free inquiry. As a humanist, Montaigne conceived of philosophy as morals, for philosophy, which as the molder of judgment and conduct, will be his principal lesson. The use of judgment is significant to the very ordinary, varied, and undulating process of life. Montaigne achieved the humanist revolution in philosophy. He asserted that philosophy should be the most cheerful activity. He practiced philosophy by setting his judgment to trial in order to become aware of its weakness, but also to get to know its strength. Every moment reveals us, but our judgment do so the best. Montaigne departs significantly from a traditional humanist education, the very one he himself received. Instead of focusing on the ways and means of making the teaching of Latin more effective, Montaigne stresses the need for action and playful activities. The child will conform, means obey rule, law, etc., early to social and political customs, but without servility. The use of judgment in every circumstances as a warrant for practical intelligence and personal freedom has to remain at the core of education. He transfers the major responsibility of education from the school to everyday life. Montaigne's thought, which is often rated as modern in so many aspects, remained deeply rooted in classical tradition. Human conduct does not obey universal rules, but a great diversity of rules. Social order is too complicated to be mastered by individual reason. There may be certain circumstances that advocate change as a better solution, as history sometimes showed. Reason being, then unable to decide, a priori judgment must come into play and alternate its view to find the best option. Now, Montaigne's skepticism. The humanist philosophy of action, dealing with the uncertainty of human affairs, shaped his mind early on. Through them, he learned repeatedly that rational appearances are deceptive. In most of the chapter of the essays, Montaigne now and then reverses his judgment. This sudden shift of perspective are designed to escape adherence and to tackle the matter from another point of view. The aim is not to ruin arguments by opposing them, but rather to counterbalance a single opinion by taking into account other opinions. Through philosophy, he seeks full accordance with the diversity of life. His exercise of judgment is an exercise of natural judgment, which means that judgment does not need any principle or any rule as a presupposition. When Montaigne set down the exercise of doubt as a good start in education, he understands doubt as a part of the process of the formation of judgment. This process should lead to wisdom, characterized as always joyful. Montaigne and relativism. The laws of conscience, which we say are born from nature, are born of custom. The power of custom indeed not only guides man in his behavior but also persuades him of its legitimacy. The task of people is not to repeat what the master said, but on a given subject of problem to confront his judgment with the master's one. Because what is crime for one person will appear normal to another. Independence of thinking alongside with clear-mindedness and good faith are the first virtue a young gentleman should acquire. Now conclusion. Montaigne is one of the most renowned French authors of his generation. He cultivates his liberty by not adhering exclusively to any one idea, while at the same time exploring them all. In exercising his judgment on various topics, he trained himself to go off on fresh tracks, starting from something he read or experienced. His language can be said to obey only one rule, that is to be an effect of judgment and sincerity to preserve the humanity of our hearts among the upsurge of bestiality or cruel behavior. He would create his own niche with his creativity in writing his essays. Experience, society, and books were the most important tools from which he would gather his ideas. Montaigne would accomplish his expertise by withdrawal from public life and to address what he called an introspective study of himself. With this, he would lay down his opinion on various issues. Montaigne is not attempting to make an argument. He is simply figuring out what he thinks as he goes along. In the essays, Montaigne's aim is above all to exercise his own judgment properly. His fundamental assertion in his collection of essays is to tell his own being and way of life.